2026 quarterback Landon Duckworth committed to South Carolina this summer, and he just reaffirmed his decision yesterday, saying he's still locked in with the Gamecocks. And I think that's a big deal. Since this dude's committed to South Carolina, this offense has been the worst in the SEC, which nobody anticipated. Talent-wise, they're not the worst in the SEC. Statistically right now, they are the worst in the SEC, and they just fired the offensive coordinator, Mike Shula, as well. So I think the fact that Landon Duckworth's still locked in, he did take a couple visits to LSU. I don't think anything really happened there, and I think the fact that this dude's still locked in with South Carolina despite all the bad things, actually we can take his commitment to mean a bit more than other recruits, because there's a lot of kids, they say they're committed and it doesn't really mean the same way the textbook definition means. And I do think Landon Duckworth's one of those guys that's actually committed to the program at South Carolina. So talking about what Landon Duckworth does well, this dude I've talked to about with a lot of recruiting people, and I don't mean like people in the industry, but there's some fans out there that just like watching high school football and watching the top prospects in the country that aren't necessarily South Carolina fans, Alabama fans, whatever have you. And this was the name that kept coming up. A lot of people are very high on Landon Duckworth that aren't South Carolina fans. And to me, I see the vision. The traits that Landon Duckworth have are really good. The velocity that he throws with on these short throws, you can see how easily he pushes the ball down the field, and then the athleticism as well. This is a 200-meter guy. I don't have the 200-meter time ready. I don't really know how to interpret those numbers, but on the football field, you see how fast this dude is. The explosiveness when he's in the open field. And the off-script stuff as well, just the overall athleticism. We're going to see his ability to change direction and kind of make people miss in the open field, but then that play extension stuff as well. He does a really good job of that, and we're going to see a throw in a little bit. Last season on this junior year film, there was a couple throws outside of the numbers that you just saw, and you were like, wow, this dude might be the best quarterback in the country. And there are people that think this is the best quarterback in the 2026 class. And there's this one right here. I'm going to have to play this one more time. People get upset when I kind of go back and replay. But this is one of the best throws I think I've seen in this 2026 cycle. Off platform, where this ball ends up. There was a couple throws like this on the junior year film as well. So not just a flash in the pan type thing. I do think this dude has really good off-script ability, and then that overall athletic profile as well checks out. But talking about Landon Duckworth in the future at South Carolina, this offseason, the kind of thought was, I did a South Carolina projection who they were going to have in 2026. And I said, LaNorris Sellers is probably in the NFL. Right now, we're not sure about that. I really like what South Carolina has in the quarterback room, even if LaNorris Sellers is gone. Air Noland, I'm a big fan of Cutter Woods. Whenever I talk about South Carolina, the fans keep bringing up Cutter Woods. This guy's going to be good going forward. So, that's another guy in 2026 that could push for the starting job. But, I think South Carolina right now, they're doing a really good job of just stacking talent in that room. You can't play three quarterbacks at once. Well, I guess South Carolina kind of does that with Doty, kind of playing what he does, Luke Doty. But the point is you can't play three quarterbacks on the field at once. And I think when you start stacking talent like this, you just kind of playing the numbers game. One of them has to be good. Air Noland was a 5-star coming out of Hughes in Georgia, and obviously started off at Ohio State, transfers to South Carolina. That dude's going to be good, I think. But Landon Duckworth, just talking about him, like I said, the traits, the athleticism, the off-script stuff, and then the arm strength as well. There's a lot to like. So I think the fact, like I said, they have a lot of names in that room in 2026, even if LaNorris Sellers is gone. I think the best case scenario, of course, for South Carolina is Sellers decides to come back. And, I still think this is a dude that deserves to go in the first round, LaNorris Sellers. So, that's up in the air, and we'll talk about that this offseason when it does happen. But, do we see Landon Duckworth in 2026? Of course, it depends if Sellers is back. I think right now, the smart money would be on either Cutter Woods or Air Noland, just because they've been in that offense longer. But, this is a guy that's going to see the field sooner or later because of, like I said, those traits. It's just kind of about forming him into a quarterback right now. Right now, this dude's a great athlete, great quarterback talent. There's a lot more that goes into playing quarterback at the next level. Of course, hitting those reads, being consistent, all that kind of stuff. But, as far as high school quarterback goes, it's kind of hard to really downplay the kind of talent that Landon Duckworth is. But you guys let me know what you think about him. Any other South Carolina commits, any other recruits you want me to get up, please feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching.